We should never have called the film One Perfect Day because we were cursed with never having perfect day. One Perfect Day is this urban love story that uses music to punctuate the drama. It's almost a larger-than-life fairy tale where the hero descends into the underworld, but in there he navigates his truth and comes out with his dream, which is to create this amazing piece of music. And it really represents what every character's going through. Tommy's trying to have his music heard. Elise is trying to have her song heard. Emma's trying to desperately speak to her brother and have him communicate with her. Carolyn is a mother who doesn't know how to communicate properly in dealing with her pain. Hector has intense past hurt that he can't get rid of, that someone needs to listen to him. Trig is this young character who can't really communicate properly. He uses his visuals as his means of communicating. So all of these characters in this central through line about listening come together in a film about a boy who hears incredible magic in the world. I've not had a life for the last 5 years. It's just been a massive process. The shooting of it took about 10 weeks, but getting it to that point took about 2 years of blood, sweat and tears, and then the post-production of the film took probably about 18 months because we were so long getting the picture right, and then even longer, it took forever to make all the music because we were guys starting from a very small track record, so we had to literally create things as we went. Lightstream Films came out of really three guys from really diverse areas. We came together with a passion to do something different. I guess I'm just a creative kind of guy that tries to put the ideas out there. You've got Phil, who's this amazing marketing mind and this real systemized guy, and you've got Charles is this man that can manifest anything out of thin air. That was the dynamic of Lightstream, and that led to a really interesting journey. It was never going to be a safe ride, but it was always going to be an interesting one.
For starters, we were three guys that had never made a film. We all had a passion for film. You know, Paul knew the craft inside out better than Phil and myself.
In the early days, it was hard to get support. They got the film and they knew what we were trying to do, but convincing people to invest in it, distributors to get behind it, that was a lot more difficult.
The story of the making of the film actually is reflected in the story within the film itself.
I think that we started with a great deal of naivety.
Because we really didn't know. We had a vision and we had a belief in each other, the three of us, that anything was possible.
Naivety and ignorance creates new ways of doing things, and if nothing else, One Perfect Day reflects a really ambitious new way of making a film.
To get people excited about something, you've got to be excited yourself.
We projected an image forward of who we wanted to be rather than who we were.
You can rewrite the rule book because there wasn't any rule book written for doing a film the way we did it, so we just kept trying and experimenting and making tons of mistakes, but getting a lot of stuff right as well. I really wanted to make this thing about DJ culture and really journey the film from classical into this electronic world. And Chip was amazing. Like, he had to interpret so much of what I had in my head.
The vision was unrealistic for the reality, but the commitment to making that vision was unrelenting.
Really trying to capture the emotional part of the power of a DJ, that a DJ can control an audience through their music so precisely.
We didn't sort of set out and say, oh, we're gonna make him a DJ. We just kind of got in touch with the spirit of young people, and we were kind of led to that space. And so it seemed fitting to find a misfit individual and see if we could bring him on an interesting journey to to discover that arena. And the most interesting place to start was at the absolute opposite of that arena, which was the classical.
Because we were talking about a boy who studies at the Royal College of Music in London, it had to have a classical authenticity, otherwise the film, what was it all about?
It was a time when we were trying to learn the music, and we were immersed in the research of the opera world and classical music, and we were interviewing DJs.
Just these great musicians that are really incredible artistic people that love being a part of something, and they all came together to try and create this musical odyssey. I believe you find the person, the human being that best matches the character that you're trying to cast, and that was the philosophy of One Perfect Day. I cast Dan Spielman because of his humanity, first and foremost. And secondly, he's this actor with this incredible body of theatrical work and experience. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, Dan is this amazing intellect that was able to understand Tommy, the role of Tommy, and also play the complex arrangement of instruments and musical qualities that he had to embody for the film.
In the early days, working with him through the script, he just brought a heartbeat to that character that I don't think otherwise would have ever been there.
I think Dan is, one of the best young actors I've seen on screen in the last few years.
You know, the irony was Dan was quite cynical of film, and because he'd done so much theatre, and he was very protective of his work.
The theatre is a humane activity. I'm not certain that film is. You are not the final product as an actor. The film is the final product, and hundreds of people work towards that. And hundreds of people are responsible for the delivery of it. Whereas on stage, it's the actor who's responsible for the editing and the sound and all that stuff.
The only reason he did the film is because we had a really great trust.
I said to Paul, this has got disaster written all over it, but it sounds marvellous.
And I met Dan, and he came along to a workshop that we were doing, and Dan was so anti-workshops.
It can be quite hysterical. People can get into the mode of, oh my God, this is amazing, you're amazing, I'm amazing, this work's amazing.
Firstly, before the workshop, we just chatted about life, about philosophy, about young people, about each other. It was just really informal, and I just really liked him as a human being.
It was a very equal relationship. If I was going to head into a disaster, I'd like to do it with someone like this.
And he was just amazing. He was just this incredibly instinctive, brave actor, and very, very bright. And I just knew there was Tommy.
Me as Tommy is just me as an actor responding to all these things. Tommy as a character affecting an audience is something different. I think that as a person, he's slowing down and paying attention and listening, for me, is the main thing.
I think a really nice part of the film is the whole notion of Tommy time. Really, the inspiration for it came a lot from David Hobson, who just hears so much in the world, and everything for him is musical.
We always hear music somewhere, and literally Tommy would hone into these sounds and it would trigger a musical thought in his head. That time would literally stand still for him. So he would actually get lost. He'd get lost in the moment. And I think most musicians, well, not even just musicians, but people, we all do that to a degree.
What if you take the time to stop and listen like Tommy does? There really is a lot of incredible music going on. Abby does a fantastic job of playing Emma because she doesn't have a lot of time to make the character likable. And she brings all this kind of vibrancy and enthusiasm that a young girl has the rest of her life in front of her. So when the tragic events unfold, they're felt as ripples right throughout the whole story, and that's a credit to how good and likeable Abby is as an actor.
First time I heard about it, right up to meeting Paul, to coming in, rehearsing, to actually shooting, it was all very realistic and straight down the line, no bullshit, no kind of I appreciate that.
You could tell she was really moved by the script. She thought it was special and she loved Emma.
Love between people, I think the family love that comes through in this film is really strong.
Whoever it was that was going to play my sister had to be an amazing woman because my sister is amazing.
Their love's massive and their connection's huge, even though they're on other sides of the world, and they both love each other and miss each other so much, and I think that's a strong point.
Tommy, if you're there, can you pick up?
She's at home and all she wants to do is talk to him, and he's hearing a message but not picking them up.
The truth is undeniable and I loathe acting. So Dan and Abby wouldn't know how to detour from the truth if you paid them $1 million.
She's not portrayed to be a little victim who, you know, someone who's has this tragic death, but she was a victim in it all, and it's all sad and it's all bad. You know what I mean? She's portrayed to be a beautiful young girl.
Technically, every character in the story in some way could be blamed for Emma's death, but ultimately none of them are responsible. And so it poses the question of responsibility. Are we responsible for our own actions? We were sitting down planning, how are we going to get the mother of this film? We need someone amazing. Wouldn't Kerry Armstrong be incredible for this role? And there she was, sitting over literally 3 tables away from us. And Charles was going, I'm going to go up and say hello. And we're going, Charles, you can't do that, you know? And he did.
My name's Charles Morton and I'm a shearer. I mean, I own pubs. I mean, I'm a producer, and I'm going, you want to work out what you are, buddy? And he goes, it's just that we've got this film. It's a wonderful film called One Perfect Day.
And that was the reason why she thought, my gosh, this guy is so underprepared. He's either a raving psycho or he's got something genuine about him.
He said, what could I say to make you believe me? And I said, well, you could look down at the pad because you're either a mad stalker or you're telling the truth. And he had a pad written in front of him that had Kerry Armstrong circled about 1,000 times with like flowers and stars.
That was one of the things that got Kerry's interest, and then she read the script and really felt the script. She makes every moment likeable on screen. She's able to bring the emotional fullness to the character, and Kerry is just a joy to work with and a joy to watch on screen.
What this tells me is that I've failed her as a mum, you know.
Being a mum myself, I realised that in my relationship to my children, you get in there, and as Emerson says, with roughest courage, you can treat them within an inch of their life as themselves, and they treat you as yourself back. They bear witness to you.
It was just a pleasure to work with someone that is so experienced and knows her craft so well.
She's just a major angel, and terrifying because of it.
And she mentored this young cast to push everyone towards really going for big, beautiful cinematic moments.
So I liked this role because I knew with Dan and Abby playing the children that they were going to be beaming back their belief in what a kid was, and I needed to beam back what a mum was. And that's a grand experiment.
Leanna was cast because of her emotional intensity, which is amazing and very, very evident in the film.
I really wanted to be involved in something modern and part of a culture and a generation that I'm part of. And I just started talking to him, and it was brilliant. And by the end of it, I was on the floor sobbing doing these scenes. I'd never done an audition like that before in my life.
Leanna was the first of the cast that I met, and I'd met her before Round the Traps, and I think she's a remarkable woman. I think she's a great intellect and a wonderful actor and a really perceptive person.
I think she's got an extraordinary emotional depth, and from being quite kind of manic on set, when action and turnover kicked off, she just zoomed into this fucking zone, which was extraordinary.
She's an actor with extraordinary instincts and an intelligence that was able to really play the poetic nature of the love story in the film.
You know, I always saw it as two people who met, who were soulmates, or had similar dreams, who were always there for each other. And I think that Tommy was just a lot stronger than her, and so she ended up feeding him and giving him because she just saw him as such a star, which he is and was. So, but she started to forget about herself.
Don't know what I'm please. I love you. Get off me! It's fuck off! Let go of me!
You know, I kind of let myself go the furthest I've been in film before, and so maybe I can walk away knowing that, you know, I sweated and I cried and I did a lot of things.
Nathan Phillips is a very funny guy. Nathan is Trig because their energies are virtually the same. Trig's this zany character that's really important to contrast the intensity of Tommy and Elise.
Kaboom! And the girl's like, you just kept playing.
Nathan was the energy of the set.
Brilliant, great, constructive, fun, mad energy.
Me and him, we just sort of clicked and we had a ball. We loved doing the same things.
I think Trig's just a lot of hype, a lot of act, a lot of bravado. Trig falls in love with the visuals of and capturing these people in their elements, you know, and I think he's just mesmerised by people and loves kind of being on the outer, thinking he knows it all and sees it all. Being able to play with the script and having Chip, the writer, on set always to help us kind of, especially for me, helping me word sentences so I could just keep that flow, and his slang and Charles Kolosmos. What the hell is that? Charles Kolosmos.
Nathan's really unique because he allows a young audience not only to go, oh, that character's really cool, but also they really connect with him as the story goes, because he transforms and he becomes something better by the end of the film. And Andrew was really great to make Hector quite street but still very bright and very manipulative and hurt. So he wanted to bring real pain to this character.
He was more of a suit, trying to be street and trying to be youth. But I wanted to play him as part of the street and part of the youth, but trying to stretch out and do something else and do something different. And even though the guy is tortured and twisted and a very dark, angry soul, he firmly believes that his philosophy, his kind of new wave, tribal, let's bring everyone together and not force everyone out, is true, and he firmly believes it.
It's not just your ease and whiz kids at the weekend getting off their nuts. It's tribal, man.
Andrew had to have that presence of mind and intelligence and life experience to understand that, to play Hector, and he did it beautifully.
I kind of knew as soon as I opened my mouth as the character, then people would, shut the fuck up, which they did.
Those scenes were just real. Yeah, he was real. It was very scary.
Very method, very full on, very just, you don't know what to expect. It keeps you on your toes, which I love.
I came from it from a very, very kind of outside perspective. I was the real outsider, but it was quite interesting and strange and a little bit fearful meeting everyone at such an early date from arrival, because I felt kind of exposed and tired and all that jet lag crap.
But that was a fabulous dynamic too, because he was this really intense method actor that really knew the process of making a film fantastically.
Of everyone in the film, it was his work that I really went, whoa, he's so bold and courageous as a performer.
He was a wonderful character to play because he's very straight, grown up in hard conditions and hard circumstances, but has made life work for him. I think Hector was beautiful pain, but he didn't have any love. But the movie, is kind of full of love.
I cast Rory really because he had this wonderful childlike connection that Noah had. We wanted this character of Noah almost to be this lovable ponderer of life that asks all the simple childlike questions that are actually quite interesting.
He's just so understated, and his humour is so understated that he's almost in his own world. He's like in this other little planet, and he doesn't care that no one else is on it.
He's just completely following Hector through blind loyalty.
The relationship with Hector was quite full on for me, actually, because there were some scenes there where we're literally smashing heads through glass tables and, you know, some heavy stuff.
Originally, he wanted to play this really Hispanic, kind of over-the-top bouncer.
Rory liked playing this Puerto Rican guy. Maybe he could do something with Noah. And I originally said, Paul, can we go with the whole Maori thing, the cheer bro, you know? Cheers, man, you know, all this sort of stuff. And he goes, no, mate, look, you don't look Maori. It's not going to work.
In the end, he's just played this really likeable, simple guy that learns a great lesson, and I think the audience really, really likes him. I always wanted Gary to shoot my first film because he knew the visual look, he knew what kind of performances I'd be going for, and was experienced with me. Because we didn't have heaps of money to build amazing sets, our choices of locations were really, really important, and how good they'd look through the lens was really important. So we spent a lot of time with that. This was my first film. I really wanted a great first, but I wanted a first that wasn't condescending, that would listen, that was sensitive. And Phil is a great man because he knows script. He's a really talented director by his own right. As the process went, more and more people got on board, but Jason was one of the first people to actually believe in the concept and believe in the team at Lightstream. And he put together a fabulous crew that was young, energetic, that had a mix of experience so we could cover off everything that we needed to, experienced heads of department that still had a philosophy of embracing young people, which was part of what we were trying to do. 3 individuals that really made the look of this film were Joseph Keeley, Patrick Bennett and Anthony Breslin. To watch the art department is one of the most satisfying things of how this film was being made, because it defied money. And you know, these people were working literally sometimes 24 hours a day to build each set and get it ready, or dress a location and make these huge events credible. The title of One Perfect Day comes from the song that our 2 lovers share. And it starts out as this simple melody on a piano. And through the events of the film, the opera that's playing out on itself, it becomes this heartfelt ballad that Elise sings when she's lost the love of her life. The events of the film are really the journey of what happens to their song.
The 3 musical things I had to tackle from the beginning, there was the violin, the piano and the DJing stuff. I set out at the start of the film to really focus on all of these 3 things and really practice really hard at each of them.
With all the training of the DJing, of the classical violin playing, of learning, you know, about this whole world, he just threw himself into it for weeks and weeks in pre-production, and literally learned how to play the violin to the point where he is totally convincing in the space of probably 6 to 8 weeks.
He embodies a lot of the real innate genius, I think, that we were trying to capture in Tommy Matisse, and a sense of authenticity and realism, because I think in many ways Dan has that magic in him.
I was really keen to find something in this experience that I could use as a focus, and the violin was that thing. Not so much the violin itself, but my tutor, Nigel.
Nigel was a classic because Nigel in many ways just loved the story, because he was a bit like Tommy himself. So you have these 2 really amazing artists in Dan and Nigel, and they just bonded as human beings, and they became really great friends. The 2 of them were united with the violin. When we were filming the Bag Lady Opera, everyone is going, what is going on here?
Shut the fuck up! Where's my 50 quid? I ain't your fucking guinea pig!
Both David and myself were really passionate that we had to show Tommy in action trying to create music that was unique. And metaphorically, it's really interesting. Is his music part of these people, or is his music part of everything? His own life and his sister and his family and the girl that he loves was playing out at the same time. One of the things that's really impressed those that have seen the film is the fact that every club or dance party or outdoor rave sequence is real.
We sat down and talked about how we would get over the enormous problem of requiring up to 5,500, 6,000 extras for some of the scenes in the film, and how we would get around the fact that there was no way we could afford to pay award rates for those people. So we came up with a unique idea with one of the best promoters in the country, Richie McNeil, a young guy by the name of Darren McFarlane, and Paul Curry, and sat down and talked about how we would run commercial events and film these events as a documentary crew.
We started out with the first club scene where we had like 1,200 extras or something. Then we went to the outdoor rave where we had 2,500 extras, and we had all these incredible hits on the website as more and more young people were going, gosh, you've got to go to these events. And word just got out more and more. And finally, Kabuki, which was Paul Van Dyk's big event, everyone was there partly because they knew the film was going on there.
There were 5,500 people. There were 3 cameras, 2 cranes, Steadicam, and an army of art department, wardrobe and makeup people working on a core group of actors amongst some of the most dangerous scenes I've shot in my life, but ultimately incredibly safe because of the hard work and passion of the team around us.
All these young people have been tracking the film virally, and that was epitomised at the Salt Plains, where we actually had to put it on specially for the film. It was way down near Geelong at these salt plains where they shot Mad Max, and this magical night that was a full moon where 2,500 people ventured out to take part in this movie that they'd heard about that was honouring the culture.
I think the best part of shooting at any of those parties was watching the film crew, and it was just brilliant. It was like this military operations group of filmmakers would all meet outside the building and like debrief and then sprint back in and be all hand signaling, oh, go, 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 and then no, stop, no, and that was amazing to watch, and to see what it came out as, it was just, that was the best part.
The logistics of shooting there for the film crew was just amazing. Like, once the party began, we wanted to let the participants keep partying.
And these beautiful people would come up to me off their nuts, and I'd be crouching on the stage just going, what is this?
It wasn't like your normal extras dancing around. We're really people dancing, having fun. The amount of people and what we were pulling off was just phenomenal. Like, I can't believe that we were doing it.
Being there and being amongst it, I mean, you didn't have to act, it was just like you were there.
Adrenaline rushing, blood pumping, just a euphoric experience, you know? I actually got nervous.
Throwing us in amongst that just jacks us up more because we get infected by it.
And in the way that we were filming them and the way that the extras were just party goers and they were coming to have a good time and not to be part of a movie, to be part of a party, was great.
Intensely difficult situations, having to do all this stuff with technology. It was much better that I didn't understand what I was heading into.
And we'd just cover moments quickly and organically. And sometimes we'd let someone know that we were filming them, other times we wouldn't. We just wanted to get those real life subtle moments that happen at a party. That kind of live adrenaline was really challenging, but it added that extra dimension to the whole film.
And then as the main shoot failed to finish and kept going, and then as the pickup started and kept going, I realised that there was no one who was going to be able to stop Paul making this film.
We'd go home at the end of a day going, okay, that's been a 14-hour day. Now we've got to get on the phones to London or to try and talk to investors overseas to try and drum up more money. And, you know, like the pressure on that is exhausting, knowing that, my gosh, I don't know where we're going to get the rest of this money from to continue the film. It does weird things to you, you know. You don't see the world as colourfully. You look
50 years older.
I don't know how we could have done any better. I don't know how much more energy is left in the tank to actually adjust another frame or up another beat. We pretty much gave it our best shot.
People believed in us and we put some more money in.
We came very close to running out of money a lot of times.
And we kept on coming back saying, we can do it. We can do it. We'll make this thing work.
It would never happen the way you expected. And then literally at the 11th hour, when all else you thought was never going to happen, a little miracle would occur and the project would keep going. And that was the dynamic the whole way along. It hasn't stopped being like that.
The pickup shoot in London happened probably about 6 to 8 weeks after we finished filming. We'd done a bit of a rough cut, so we knew what we wanted. We were this tiny little crew. We crewed up over there. We'd jump out the back of a van, shoot it and whip back in, because sometimes we couldn't afford permits.
It was a lot of fun. We stopped traffic. We met lots of different people through London, and we got the results that we want.
We kind of said, okay, this is stage one. Let's shoot. Let's get the film in the can. And then we're going to have to show people what we've done in order to raise more money to keep going. And it was a riveting, exciting way of doing it, but my gosh, it placed a massive amount of pressure on everyone because we were so under-resourced.
But sadly, it had to be me. I had to say, I'm cutting all my hair off tomorrow so you can get fucked.
Musically, we had to have integrity both in the classical world and the electronic world, and that in itself is a huge task to undertake.
And with the music, what we wanted to do was seek as much music as we could that was specific to the film, that wasn't previously released.
When we showed our music cue sheet to people and we had these huge names like Groove Armada, Paul Van Dyke, everyone said, you are not going to get that.
Phil will be doing the music and there's a chance of him getting Fatboy Slim. Holy shit, where does the next $40,000 come from?
Amazing. I had these artists in my head, and when Phil was able to actually start attaching them, it was amazing.
We were on a small budget and we were able to pull together, a reasonable string section to give the sense of a classical sound. Like, there is a difference between a synthesizer and guys playing real time. Yeah, it's irreplaceable. So for me, it was essential that we used a real orchestra, and for Paul.
David had written such beautiful melodies, they had to be honoured with a proper orchestra. The vision for the film was always this melodramatic, sweeping score that punctuated these big heightened moments. There we were down at the Eaton Studios. We were finally recording an 80-piece orchestra. One of the real heroes of the film is Paul Parola. He's worked a year and a half, probably 2 years on the film, creating all the sounds, working with us on script, working with us during production.
We had to be just as musical as we did, and his editing of the sound and his use of sound is absolutely spectacular. And as a musician, I have incredible respect for him.
He had the challenge of bringing Tommy's world to life.
Being able to brought everything together in the mix with all, the real sounds and the orchestra and the electronic sounds and the dialogue, just to have, manipulated it all and worked it all to, to work with Tommy's journey and have a, high impact. Of course, we just wanted to sound like far better than what, would come out of a little mini disc. So I've got this crazy engineer at work who's devised this system where portable rig where he's got like 6 microphones. We took this rig out and did lots of recording. So this guy, Steve, sat by train tracks at like 2 in the morning and recorded freight trains coming by. We went and recorded all the crowds with like 500 people or 1,000 people cheering and whistling for the party scenes. Being able to play with that and sort of give the
people that are used to only hearing that sort of music in a left-right sort of environment and really sort of push the boundaries and have it spinning around the room and sounding really cool that was a lot of fun.
We all ended up doing each other's job to some extent. You know, I mean, in the end, Paul Ferrari was changing the key of orchestral stuff so that it would fit with things if I'd missed something.
Josh has been on it a long time now, and he's been kind of the conduit for David's classical as it morphs into the electronic. And Josh has done all these remixes of tracks. He's so many subtle layers to the film are a result of Josh and Scott, who he works with.
There was so much work to do all the time, and we were all kind of always so overwhelmed that if you were there and you could do it, you did do it.
There was a real sense of everyone having to work together because sound was working with picture very closely. So as we'd do a cut, we'd test for sound and how would that work, and vice versa. And it meant that the post-production process went well over a year. So much of this film is a result of Gary Woodyard, it really is. He coordinated a lot of the post and brought a lot of the people together because the editor is so central to everything, so everything has to flow through Gary. I think they cut for almost 8 to 12 months. Because we were trying to create such a unique look, it really lent itself to going via the digital intermediate, which again had never been done on a film in Australia. It took longer, and because we were all working out how the systems work with it all. And you know, AAV had to work really closely with Tide, and the flame work would be done on it with John, who was doing all the Tommy time work, you know, who was working with Gary, our editor, and John and Gary worked a lot together. And then Chroma, who designed a lot of the title sequence and a lot of the end wall footage. That would then all be worked in with John Fleming's team at AAV. So there was this triangle of really talented people that had to all work with different systems, and that created logistical issues, but again, a huge amount of commitment and energy and people's expertise all trying to push to make this thing better. I had to choose something that was so full on and so much bigger than what we should have done.
It seems to have pushed everyone involved at a phenomenal level.
Was so out there with the ambition of it that we thought we've just got to keep going and we've just got to keep trying stuff.
We didn't know the rules, and so we didn't know we were breaking anything, and we broke them. We didn't break them, we smashed them to pieces.
No animals were harmed in this film, but lots of humans.
Everyone that worked on the film has been pushed to the limits, but in some way has done some of their best work.
I believe that you can become part of a character. I believe a character is you, but I never believed in real method. I didn't understand how it actually does happen. It actually did happen a lot on this.
I really admire the endurance of people who do this all the time. I don't know how people do it all the time.
What you see, you have no idea how hard people worked to do, and that's because Paul got together a great Melbourne crew who believed in his vision and just, you know, wanted to make something that was different.
Because immediately you go, oh, well, it's sort of about the dance scene, and everyone goes, oh, yeah, that film. But it's not that film.
This film is about changing lives. It's about making people sit back and think, you know, can I achieve my dreams?
And that's a really good emblem for everybody, kids. So I wanted to be a part of that.
If you actually really look and listen, sometimes all is not what it seems.
It's frightening to think how fragile the whole journey is, but somehow it seemed to be a story that wanted to be told.
We still don't know exactly what's going to happen next, you know? It's just been this miraculous, weird and wonderful journey.